Chelsea appear to have found their new coach in Enzo Maresca. Today we're going to be taking a look at how he might set up Chelsea if he were to become the head coach, and how he might take this young Chelsea squad forwards. Before we start talking about the players, it's important to highlight and note the system that Enzo Maresca will be utilising if he were to become Chelsea boss. The utilisation of the 4-3-3 system is something that he likes to highlight, with those 4 defenders, those 3 midfielders and those 3 attackers. In possession, what we tend to see is a wing back or full back coming into the middle of the park to partner the central defensive midfielder. This not only gives a better presence in midfield, but it also allows for overloads from the 4 midfielders, including the full back, to allow for better possession. Once possession is maintained, the width comes from the 2 wide men, allowing for the striker to run in beyond between different channels. This is due to the rotation of different opposition players through the movement of both the striker and the 2 attacking midfielders. The defensive solidity is maintained through this double pivot of the fullback and the central defensive midfielder, and the back 3 that naturally becomes a possession-based back 3 to allow them to progress the ball forwards. Once possession is maintained, they are then able to go forwards. It's this balance with 5 defenders and 5 attackers that gives Enzo Maresca's side their solidity in both defence and attack, making them potent and able to stop counterattacks. For the back 5, I think we'll see something like this. I think Petrovic in goal is the best possible example of a goalkeeper that Chelsea currently have at the moment. He's very good between the sticks, and he's also not too bad with his feet. Utilisation of that will allow Chelsea to really build up from the back and play through into their 2 centre-backs in Levi Colwill and Wesley Fofana. Now, Fofana has been really unfortunate with injuries, but I do believe that coming into this Chelsea side is going to be something that will really refresh this back line. Levi Colwill is one of the best ball-playing centre-backs that Chelsea have, and I believe that they need to put him in. Now, you might be questioning Marco Correa here, but I think that moving him into midfield is something that really could take Chelsea to a completely different level. Mauricio Pochettino did manage to work this out later on towards the end of his tenure at Chelsea, and I think that doing this again under Enzo Maresca will allow Chelsea to really dominate possession while also being that little bit more defensively solid. Reece James comes into the back line as well, because I think he would make for a really good right-sided centre-back. So if we were to move these Chelsea players round, this is what I think could happen. You've got Fofana as the main centre-back, Reece James as the right centre-back, and Levi Colwill as the left. Not only do you have a bit of balance because you've got the left footer in Colwill, you've got the right footer in James, but you've also got the pace in behind for Wesley Fofana if they were able, or if the opposition was able to really break the press. Marco Correa then comes into midfield, and Enzo Maresca really talks about playing in traffic, and this is the idea of playing in a system or against a style of play that is really condensed, playing within those pockets. And I think that with his pace, with his technical ability, I think Marco Correa can do that, and partnering with the central defensive midfielder for Chelsea is going to give them that little bit more stability. His passing range is quite good, and it allows them to really progress the ball forwards while also maintaining that defensive solidity. Now, the midfield is something that I was deliberating on for quite a while. I had so many different permutations of midfield trios. I had a number of different versions of this midfield, but I ended up going with this. Moises Caicedo, I think, is pretty much a given in this central defensive midfield role, allowing for Correa to then come into midfield. Enzo Fernandez being a little bit further forwards gives a little bit more verticality to the way that this Chelsea side could play, allowing for Palmer to be a little bit further forwards. Now, while this is a midfield 3 in a 4-3-3 system, I do believe that Enzo being in between both Palmer and Caicedo gives this Chelsea side a bit of verticality, and I think it's normal to assume that Enzo and Palmer are not going to be exactly in the same depth of playing than everyone else will be. I do think there's going to be a little bit of variety in this, and it is down to the way that Enzo moves, and it's down to the way that Palmer moves. We know that Cucurella is going to come next to Caicedo in this Enzo Maresca system, and I just think that it makes a lot of sense. So what we're going to be looking towards is something like this. You've got the back three, you've got the midfield double pivot of Cucurella and Caicedo, and then you've got Enzo and Palmer just ahead, but not exactly in the same plane. You've got Enzo just behind Palmer to allow for that progression of play, to allow for that movement, to allow for that real dynamic field and dynamic play to start to evolve. And then we move into the attackers. So the attackers is where it gets really exciting. I've got Mudryk out on this left-hand side, and whatever you say about him, he is dynamic. He's got the ability to beat a man, he's got the pace to beat a man. I just think he needs to be given the confidence that playing in a free-flowing, positive side will give him. He can stay out wide, and so can Noni Madueke. It's the width that is given from both of these players really hugging the touchline that will give Chelsea their space in the centre of the park to allow for Enzo and Palmer to really do their thing. And I went for Christopher Nkunku as the main attacking striker. Now, I understand that he's not an out-and-out striker, he's not a number 9, but it's in this system and in this field of play that I think Nkunku could drop a little bit deeper. It's utilising the possession to get this Chelsea side into better scenarios. It's not about playing into the striker and having him hold the ball up and then recycle. While that is a case, and while that is something that can happen, I believe that Nkunku is much better being involved in play and then driving towards the box. He doesn't need to always be on the last line of defence. His pace allows him to really go in beyond and time his runs properly, mixing it with the likes of Enzo, mixing it with Palmer, and creating those interplays, creating those little patterns of play while moving the ball out to Mudryk, while moving it out to Madueke, and really creating those dynamic elements and dynamic moments that the Chelsea owners are looking for. All in all, this Enzo Maresca system could be something that could take Chelsea to a whole new level. The interplay, the ability to really dominate possession with this midfield pivot, the ability for Enzo to be a little bit more further forwards, linking with the likes of Mudryk, playing it through into Palmer, who's going to have the freedom of the pitch to really drive and drift into different areas, and Nkunku being that forward-thinking striker and forward player to help out with Madueke and Mudryk holding out the width. I think it's really exciting. And guys, this is how I believe Enzo Maresca could set up Chelsea next season if he were to become the head coach. You've got the back three in James, Fofana and Colwill. You've got the progression of Colwill through this left-hand side. You've got the progression of James through this right-hand side. You've got the ability for them to be defensively sound, and you've got Wesley Fofana as that defensive cover, shifting across to the left and the right whenever he needs to. Moving forward into midfield, you've then got the ability for Cucurella to play next to Caicedo, who is that wall, that real defensive destroyer to help out with Cucurella when they need to, and also maintain that progression and possession to go forward into the two attacking midfielders. Enzo Fernandez moving forwards into a more attacking role, but not as high as Cole Palmer, not only allows for the rotation and for the ability for them to pick up different pockets of space, but it also means that there are going to be different areas and avenues for Chelsea to explore. The width coming from Mykhailo Mudryk out on this left-hand side and Noni Madueke out on this right-hand side gives that extra bit of space for Enzo and Palmer to play in. Then you've got the likes of Christopher Nkunku to be able to move around. He can drop a little bit deeper, link up with the midfielders, or spin in behind if they ever need to. His finishing is really good, but it's also his build-up play and link with the rest of his team that I think could take this Chelsea side to a whole new level. All in all, I think this both has the defensive solidity while also maintaining an offensive presence to both allow Chelsea to be balanced going backwards and going forwards. And of course, let me know what you guys think about Enzo Maresca possibly joining Chelsea in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this, please hit that like button and subscribe. It really would mean a lot to me. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something new, and I hope to see you in the next one. But until then, my friends, take care.